I'd like to welcome everyone to Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners meeting of May 18th, 2021 at 5 p.m. If you'd please stand, Commissioner Hale's going to do our invocation and our pledge.
All right, everybody bow your heads, please. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to get together and do the work of the county. And Lord, I hope and pray that you'll guide us in that respect. Lord, I hope and pray that you'll watch over our families and our friends, watch over our first responders, our nation, Lord, and we pray for the things that are going on overseas. It's out of our hands, but it's all in your hands, and that's where we're going to leave it. We pray for your forgiveness of our sins. Bless us and guide us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Our first item of business is approval of minutes from our May 4th, 2021 regular board meeting. Do I have any questions or comments, or do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment.
Yes, sir. Mr. Pravat.
Thank you, sir. On page 28 of the reflected minutes, and if you look at the first line up at the top, it says the first additional agenda item. If you go down to the second provision where they're talking about the rock crusher, I do not think Commissioner Land moved to approve a bidder, since we did not have one. So it's either, whatever he said was either bids or to seek bids. And if that needs to be corrected in the record.
That's correct.
Yes. Fair enough. Anything else?
No, sir.
Any other comments on the minutes, or do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Commissioner Fleming.
Second.
Second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving ahead to the consent agenda, we have items 2 through 16. Do I have any questions, or do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, can we pull items 8, 15, and 16, please, sir?
8,
15, and 16.
15, and 16. That leaves items 2 through 7 and 9 through 14. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hale.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Land. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, Commissioner Land, item number 8.
Yes, sir. I just had a question. I was reading through this here grant, and it's really just of some formality questions. I see, and maybe just a lack of understanding from myself or lack of knowledge, but this grant references $2.1 million as the cost of construction in several places for this fire station. I really was just curious on, I mean, I haven't seen any construction plans or bids, or I don't even know, what are we building out there as far as size? I mean, are we moving all of our fire administrators out there? And, I mean, I just would like to be updated, because I have no idea what we're building for $2.1 million. That seems like a big number, and I'm just curious.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner.
I can provide a brief answer. The brief answer is that you'll be discussing this in more detail in your budget workshops. That number is actually an engineer's estimate of probable cost for the entire project.
Okay, I understand that. I knew that we got the number from somewhere. I was just trying to figure out what that number entailed. I mean, are we building a fire station like I drive by in Louisville every day, or are we building a one like Live Oak Fire Station? That was my question, I guess. What exactly? Have we decided that, I should ask?
The board will have to decide.
Okay.
You'll have a sketch of a fire station, and I'm going on memory. I think it's got bays that'll hold 6 pieces of equipment. But outside that, you'll have to decide on that when we get into a budget workshop.
Okay, fair enough. I was really just curious on what this fire station was going to look like since we knew the number.
Any other questions, or do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve it. Mr.
I have a motion by Commissioner Land.
Second.
Second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 15, Commissioner Land.
Yes, sir. I had a few questions for Mr. Harris in regard to this particular item. Is this the same item that we discussed on February the, excuse me a second,
If that's,
February 2nd meeting about hiring this person with these qualifications for the $87,000 in the vehicle?
here's what we've done. We took all of the comments And in this package, you'll see information on what the other communities are doing and the size facilities that they have. And then we said, okay, the only thing that we don't know then would be what we might be able to obtain the services for from the businesses that are in this business, with one exception. Number 16 is just a little bit different. That's for companies that actually do emergency repairs of utilities. But number 15 itself, yes, that would be correct. This is what we discussed before, with an estimate of what it would cost for labor to hire someone.
So are we hiring
But I
someone?
don't have any idea what it would cost if we hired a company that maybe is already doing work for someone else in the area.
Okay. For clarification purposes, is this agenda item, it says request for proposals for utility operator services. Are we hiring someone at the county level to be a county employee, or are we advertising for contractor services? I'm unclear on what that means.
You will eventually make that determination once we have an idea what it will cost for all of the options. The only option that I could give you before was that of hiring someone. The other option would be that of considering a company that provides those types of services. But since we don't have a number from them, and no one really wants to give you a number, we're going to request a proposal from them, and then you can compare the two and then make a decision.
So this is a request for proposals for bids for subcontractors that have these qualifications to manage these 3 sites.
It would typically, well,
I mean,
That
I'm so
individuals-
confused on what that
yeah,
means.
Individuals with that experience can respond to the request for proposals, or it may be a corporation, a nationwide corporation that offers these services nationwide or statewide.
But we're not hiring an
Either one.
employee. This is not to hire an employee. This is for services, contractors.
This
Or-
isn't a proposal to hire anyone. This is a
Okay.
proposal to obtain information and bring it back to the board, and then y'all can compare it to the possibility of hiring someone.
Okay,
But at least you'd know then what it would cost if we contracted that service out with someone.
okay, I understand now. I'm good on number 15. But it goes right into number 16, because number 16 has, I see Mr. L shaking his head, authorization to advertise a request for proposals for utility emergency repair services. I'm going to guess that that is what they would charge us for after-hour services, or what, I mean, what
Emergency
does that mean?
repairs, if you have a line blowout, if you've got a lift station that goes out, if you've got a blockage in a sewer main that someone has to go clean out. This would be a contract service as well, so we're asking for proposals on what their typical charges are for that type of service.
Some of these same contractors can provide those, or this will be more of a construction-type contractor?
You may find corporations that offer both of these types of services, but that isn't always going to be the case. There will be some that might respond to the number 15 that do not respond to number 16, and vice versa.
Okay. I'm good. I was trying to really just need a clarification if we were hiring an employee or if we were just soliciting contractors for bid, but it sounds
Basically, we're
like
just getting additional information to make that decision in the future.
that's what I needed to know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
on number 16, we don't have anybody that does that now, Mr. Harris?
We have paid companies to handle some emergencies for us before, but we need to have an established
dedicated-
relationship with someone under contract where we can say, we know that you're going to be available at 2 o'clock in the morning if we need assistance. And there are companies that do that.
Good.
I have, in the form of a motion from anyone, item 15 and 16.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner White. Have a Second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving ahead to time-specific items is Mr. Meeks. Okay, thank you, sir. I just didn't see you. At 5:05 PM or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, hold the second of 2 public hearings for CPA 20-01, adopting an ordinance to amend the text and future land use plan map of the comprehensive plan based upon an evaluation completed by the county to reflect changes in the state requirements pursuant to Section 163.3191 Florida statutes. At this time, I will open the public hearing, and I will ask Mr. Pravat, we have anyone?
All right, thank you. If anybody in the audience here that thinks that they may give testimony for this item. And while we're at it, if we look down the agenda, there are items 17, 18, 19, and 20. If you anticipate that you'll give testimony on any of those 4 matters, would you stand to be sworn?
Basically, if you think you're going to have any comment, or if you wish to make any comment, it's just being sworn in at this time.
All right, seeing none at this particular point, Mr. Meeks, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give before the board this evening will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pravat. This time, Mr. Meeks, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, board members, this is second of 2 public hearings that are required for the adoption of our evaluation and appraisal report. Towards the mid to latter part of 2020 is when we had the first hearing and submitted that information to the State Department of Economic Opportunity, as well as all of the reviewing agencies that is involved with large-scale amendments, such as an evaluation and appraisal report. We had comments that had came back. There was a couple items that they wanted us to address. We have addressed those in the response. One of them was just pertaining to data and analysis used with population estimates that we, as the county, would use in forecasting our horizons with any other types of development. The other one was specifically dealing with a policy that would address proportionate share. You had a developer come in and their development triggered some type of improvement that needed to be done, that there would be a mechanism in place for the proportionate share. They pay their portion of, to bring whatever is deficient up to standard. The other items that were in there, as we went over the first time through the first hearing, is a bunch of kind of housekeeping issues. We've had some modifications and updates to our flood insurance rate maps, which is our firm maps. Those are the official documents that we use for determining base flood elevations and whether people's property's in a flood zone and things like that. And we've had several modifications through, we had an update in 2007, 2013, 2016, and our most current version is 2018. So all of the points in the comprehensive plan where those dates were referenced, we had to modify those dates, bring those current. We've amended several of our tables in our comprehensive plan dealing with the capital improvement element. We've included the projects, the FDOT projects that are scaled out in their 5-year projection. We had to change some of the information in regards to our vicinity maps with our schools. We've had some local changes with our schools and the grades that they serve and some of their general vicinity locations. We've amended those tables in the comprehensive plan as well. So we have provided our answer to the state as well as the transmittal letter that is prepared for the chairman's signature. And if the board so chooses to adopt the ordinance, everything will be, their new process now is to do a digital upload. So we'll upload everything digitally to the Department of Economic Opportunity and we'll be good.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks.
I don't have anything else to add, Mr. Chairman. I'll enter the file into the record at this time.
Okay, we'll accept the entire file in as composite Exhibit 1.
Thank you, Mr. Pravat. At this time, do I have any questions from the board for Mr. Meeks on this matter? Seeing none, at this time, I will open the floor to public comment. Do I have anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I will close public comment at this time. I will open it for board discussion. Do I have any questions or comments or?
I don't have any.
No, sir.
No, I don't have any, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing none at this time, do I have a motion to adopt resolution?
I'll make a motion to adopt it. Okay.
I have a motion by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Meeks. At this time, I'll close public hearing on this matter. We'll move ahead to item number 18. I will, at 5:05 PM or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, we'll hold a public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance pertaining to CPA 21-01, an application by Clear Properties LLC to amend the future land use plan map of the comprehensive plan by changing the land use clarification from residential 1 to commercial. We have already went through the swearing-in process, so at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Chairman, this application is, of course, to amend the future land use map of Suwannee County on a 4.38 acre parcel of property. Currently, the property has a future land use designation of residential single family. The proposed amendment would change the future land use of the property to commercial. Just a general vicinity location for this, I know, it was probably around about a year ago, or about a year and a half ago, the county had adopted a land use amendment for the property that was going to be developed for the Kubota site. That property has been, since then, annexed into the city limits of Live Oak. So this property in question borders the city of Live Oak to its, probably that's more of a southeasterly boundary. And in the aerial map that is included with the application, we've kind of used a hash line that kind of shows the proposed site and where it sits along 72nd Trace. The owner of the property had a brief meeting with us and discussed the immediate need for the placement of a temporary office while there's some construction being done in the general vicinity. Being that the property was a residential land use classification, we felt it'd be better to amend the land use to make it commercial. Ultimately, the property will be developed commercial some point in time down the future, but the immediate need right now would be for a temporary office. So first process would be amending the future land use map, and then the application you have behind it would be the supporting rezoning request. But I don't really have anything else to add to the request. You see the attachments that's there, a copy of the boundary layout and a copy of the aerial map showing its general vicinity and its location to the existing access to the road and where it sits currently. So your eastern property would all be zoned commercial currently. Property to the south and to the west would be still zoned residential. And that may change as that area future develops.
Yes, sir.
But at this time, I don't have anything else to add, and I would enter the file into the record.
Okay, take the office file in as composite exhibit 1.
Thank you, Mr. Pravat. At this time, do I have any questions from the board for Mr. Meeks on this matter?
No, sir. No, sir.
Seeing none, I will open the floor to public comment. Have anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, I will close public comment. At this time, I will ask for any further board discussion, questions, or comments? Or do I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make a motion to adopt it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Land,
Second.
second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. I'll close public hearing at this time. Moving ahead to item 19, we will open public hearing. 5:05 PM or soon thereafter, as the matter can be heard, hold a public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance pertaining to LDR 21-01, an application by Clear Properties LLC to amend the official zoning atlas of Suwannee County by changing the zoning designation on the following described property from residential single family to commercial intensive. Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else to add. First step is to amend the future land use map. Second process would be to amend the zoning atlas. Same property, same boundary, 4.3 acres. The zoning would change from residential single family to commercial intensive. At this time, I would enter the file into the record.
Mr. Pravat.
Okay, I'll take in the office file as composite exhibit number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Pravat. At this time, I'll ask the board if they have any questions of Mr. Meeks.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Seeing none, I will open the floor to public comment. Anyone wishes to speak, please make your way to the podium. Seeing none, I will close public comment at this time. It appears no one else has any questions, so I will ask for a motion to adopt the resolution.
Make a motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hale,
Second.
second by Commissioner Land. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. This time I'll close public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. At this time, since y'all are entertained, we're going to do this one more time. At 5:05 PM or soon thereafter, I'll open public hearing. The matter can be heard to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 67, Section 2 and 3 of Utility Installation Ordinance. Mr. Harris and Mr. Pravat.
I'll just make a brief comment. This really boils down to the necessity to have markers put in the county right-of-way where utility companies have above-ground, any type of above-ground equipment. We've had a problem for years where these pedestals are out there with vegetation all grown up around them, and then if our bush hog, when we're trying to maintain the right-of-way, bumps into them, it costs us thousands of dollars to go out there and have them repaired. Well, it's because we can't see them. So you have seen, in many cases, a PVC pipe sticking up as a marker of some utilities. We're changing our, this requirement so that the companies will go out there and be required to put a marker in at these pedestals that's of sufficient height where we can see those, the tractor operators can see them, and maybe we can curtail some of the expense associated with repairing these things. Again, they're utilizing the county right away, but they're not maintaining around the pedestals or around the equipment, and then we run into a problem. So that's the general provision that's in here.
Thank you, sir. Do I have any questions from the board for Mr. Harris or Mr. Pravat on this matter?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Land.
have we spoke to the different utility providers in the county, just letting them know that we were gonna be doing something like this, kind of give them a heads up? I know there's a liability on our part if we run into it. We don't want to minimize that, but can we kind of
Again,
throw them a
Yeah.
warning?
pursuant to the statute, we sent the notification to the Secretary of State's office, which you have to do when you're making, when it's affecting the utilities like that. And we've provided that notice.
Okay.
Any other questions at this time?
No, sir.
Seeing none at this time, I'll open the floor to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I will close public comment at this time. No further, if we have no further board discussion, I will ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, a motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. This time we'll close public hearing. Moving ahead to item number 21, discuss with possible board action, economic development project located at current soccer field on 72nd Trace. Mr. Greg Bailey. Welcome, sir. Just name and address for the record.
Greg Bailey, 1450 Southwest State Road 47, Lake City, Florida. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm here to basically give you the engineering information on the request by Mr. Wainwright. Whenever I'm finished and you have no questions for me, then he'll have some other information he'll provide you on his proposal.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wainwright contacted us about preparing a site plan for a project he wanted to undertake near the corner of County Road 795 and 72nd Trace. That parcel is currently owned by the county. What he told us he wanted to do and what we sketched up and provided you a site plan of is he wanted to construct a 78 by 200 foot building, parking for the building, which consisted of approximately 32 spaces and an outdoor storage area. His proposed use was to light manufacture waste containers. So we took the information that was provided and prepared a site plan, which I believe you should have in your packet. That overall area parcel is about 23 acres. The total area that we showed for the site was about 7.8, almost 8 acres of area there. The remaining property there is unsuitable. It has steep slopes or wet areas associated with it. So that would be the usable area. The access would be on 72nd Trace, right at the current driveway that the county had previously constructed for access to the site. We've been doing work for Mr. Wainwright and other owners out there. This area, just to kind of give you some information, the area is an old mining site, and we've had to do a number of additional activities to make things usable out there. I'm sure everybody heard about what Publix had to do with theirs. Prior to that, whenever the subdivision and the ALF was built on top of the hill, there was additional work had to be done to make those areas usable. So there is, part of this same process. A lot of the soils are unconsolidated, so we're having to do some additional work. We can't address any details at this point until additional work would be done as far as soil borings and the like. Currently, we're undertaking about a 19 boring exercise on some property to the east of this that we're having to do some work on for Mr. Wainwright as well. That's basically everything. It's like manufacturing site with a building and an outdoor storage area. So unless y'all have anything for me, Mr. Wainwright, I'd like to go over his proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. At this time, do I have any questions for Mr. Bailey? Or, excuse him,
Mr. Bailey, I have a Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lamb?
Mr. Bailey, may I ask, out of curiosity, why the proposed site is all the way at the, I guess that would be the southwest corner, rear of the property? Why did you pick there?
The location that was shown was what was identified as far as the best usable area for
Okay,
the property.
I understand. I was just curious.
Any other questions for Mr. Bailey at this time?
Yes, Mr. Bailey, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner White?
Mr. Bailey, the piece that he's wanting to build the building on, is it usable as is, or you got to do something before you can put that building on it?
We anticipate having to do some work as far as the soils in that area. Like I said, the upper layers of that tends to be unconsolidated. They vary widely in there, so we would anticipate either some additional compactive effort having to be done or having to put some geotextile, some soil reinforcement, soil containment system in potentially for that. When you got heavier loads, if you're not using it for loading type operations, then it could have other uses, obviously.
That's all I got, thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you, Mr. Bailey, for your comments. This time, Mr. Wainwright?
Mr. Chairman, before we go any farther,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for the board. May I ask who put this on the agenda? Who was responsible for this item being on the agenda?
I placed it on the agenda based on a request to have it come to the board for discussion.
Okay. You are aware that whenever we had our ethics deal, that we agreed as a board to do two things. One, we would not discuss the ethics hearing any farther until they ruled. And secondly, we would not do any land deals or swaps until they ruled. So I'll make a motion that we table this and we stick to our original agreement. We table this indefinitely until ethics rules. That's what we agreed to. That's what was the consensus of the board. And, I'm a man of my word, and I've kept it so far, and I would ask that the rest of you guys keep it. So I make a motion that we table this as originally agreed until Ethics Commission rules. That's my motion.
At this time, we have a motion on the floor. I'll entertain that motion. It'll take a second to move it forward.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm not,
Or I can open the floor for discussion.
well, I was gonna say, I know we discussed it. I don't know verbatim, that's what we said. That's interesting that you bring that up, so I don't know that that's something we need to look at. Did any one of you guys recall that discussion?
That's what I thought we discussed.
Yes, sir. I mean, I as you guys recall, I was pretty passionate about it. So I think if anybody recalls what ended there, I believe I'd have it fairly accurate.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Mr. Harris?
It's up to the board to decide, but I guess my question would be, we actually have some other properties that have been discussed of selling as well.
I believe those were going through the surplus.
Some of them have been surplus, but we haven't done anything with them. So my question would be, whatever the board decides here now on this.
Was my
We'll need to
understanding,
know as well on those properties what we're going to be doing with those.
you understood what I said, and I have a motion, I made a motion to table it, because as I understood it, we can postpone this to the next meeting if you want, and go back and look at the YouTube video or pull the minutes, but
Well, I understand what you're saying.
I agree.
Commissioner Land. I mean, but
We
he-
agreed to that.
You're right with your statement, but he's right with his statement. We have discussed land and voted on land things since that happened. So I understand both sides is what I'm saying.
Mr. Chairman, we haven't voted or made any decisions on any properties that the county owns specifically that dealt with the private sector as this piece does.
I'm not going to say that they deal with the private sector like this piece does, but we have made decisions. And I don't know just what meeting that is, and we can look at it. But I will say, Commissioner Hale, did you have further comments?
No, go ahead, I just,
Mr. Chairman, can I say something?
Yes, sir. Mr. Fleming, Commissioner Fleming, I'm sorry.
How much time, you saying postpone it to the next meeting? Or
If there's
indefinitely?
My motion is indefinitely, but if there's question upon the board on what we agreed upon, we did agree not to do any land deals. And in my opinion, this is a property that the county owns, and it's very similar in nature to the land deal that we were involved with the fire station. And when that was discussed, we agreed not to do any more land swapping or dealing with the county until the Ethics Commission ruled.
Mr. Wainwright, how much time are you looking at?
You know, I need to be starting construction right now.
Right now?
You know, the economy's good. We're trying to provide jobs. And this is just a stall tactic by Chairman Land. He don't support what we're doing, what I'm doing. And so this is just a technicality that he's trying to find him a loophole to where he could see if he could fill up the room to make, it still makes no difference if we're gonna do it. Let's proceed forward and do it.
Mr. Wainwright, you and I haven't discussed anything. You do not know
This
if I,
ain't the
you
place
do
for
not,
me and
you
you to hash
don't
it
know if I
out.
support your agreement or not.
I understand our disagreements and our feelings, but listen, here's what we got to do this. We got to be professional about it. I have to run the meeting as a chairman. These people deserve respect, and we're going to give them respect. But this is what we're going to do right now. This commissioner has made a motion. If I have a second, we will take a vote on that motion. If I do not have a second, Mr. Wainwright will present his side of the case.
Fair enough.
So at this time, I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Land to postpone discussion of this hearing, or possible action on this item number tonight. So
just to clarify that, I mean, I don't want to go back on any word that we made, or anything this board voted on, or I don't remember if it was a vote or if it was.
It was a consensus.
Consensus, I don't remember. I'm not saying indefinitely, I would like, if you need time or we need time to pull that and look at it, if it's put on the next meeting, I'm good with that and we can take it up then, but I don't know that I would, until I remember or see or read what we did. You know what I'm saying?
If you guys need more time to go back and look at the minutes, I mean, I'm holding true to what I said. I haven't discussed and brought up anything about the ethics investigation. And I would expect the same from you guys, and that was the consensus. But if you guys don't recall it that way and need a little more time, then so be it. But that was what we agreed on. I'll let you guys decide that.
I have a motion to postpone it indefinitely. So I need a clarification on that if we're,
Postpone it until ethic rules as we agreed back in December.
any further discussion on that, Commissioner Hale?
I think I would, I don't know if I could go with indefinite until I see what we discussed, because I just don't recall verbatim.
So at this time, I have a motion in it, and I don't have a second. Seeing that we don't have a second, we will proceed with the hearing, or the discussion, I'm sorry. I keep misstating. Mr. Wainwright, please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Donald William Wainwright, 7169 61st Road.
Fair enough. Welcome, sir.
Appreciate y'all letting me be here tonight. You know, this project out here has been ongoing for years. Took a lot of work. We're starting to see a lot of things like AgPro, Komatsu, Kubota. A lot of things is going on, and appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Years ago, DDJ give this piece of property to the county to do a recreation park soccer field. And the county did start it out, but we did know that it was an undesirable piece of property, had some problems, had some unsuitable soil, some wet stuff. It wasn't desirable to us. And we donated it to the county. They got a grant, built a soccer field. Unbeknownst to Mr. Scott and them, you can't grow grass out there. It's hard as concrete. And they tried. Since then, Millennium Park has come along, much more desirable piece of property, better fit for the community, and the community's put a lot of money into it. Instead of trying to resurrect something that they can't grow grass or anything like that, I proposed to the commission and the county that I pay the grant back, and then that money could be allocated to Millennium Park or the Douglas Center. The county didn't pay anything for the property. They're not out any money in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So this money could be earmarked for Mr. Scott and them to use at the other parks as they see fit. In the process with that, there's extensive land work to do because it's unsuitable soil. It's got to be lowered about 15 to 20 foot to match everything around there. Y'all watched the Publix, what was done out there. A tremendous amount of dirt work's got to be done. And you would ask yourself, why? Well, that project means everything to me because it's mine. And, you know, when we look at our county, the number one thing we export here is our children because people don't provide jobs for them. My wife asked me 3 nights ago, Don, do you really want to do this? You're not at a point in your life where you need this. But the difference is I may not need it, but I've took such abuse from people about when I supported Suwannee American Cement. I mean, even threats was on TV. But look at what an outcome it's been for our county and the jobs it's provided. So when we look at Clausen, the same thing, us businessmen that got up here and spoke for it, we took all kinds of abuse. But I'm not going to work there. But there's a lot of people that does. Years ago, Travis, you remember this, prison wanted to locate right in front of my house on Hughes Highway, right out there by you. The whole neighborhood's in an uproar, having meetings, signing petitions, passing around. But you never seen my name on it, and it was going right in front of my house. And my words to everybody out there is I may not work there, but a lot of my friends do. And if I don't like it, I'll leave. All right? I feel that way. You may not support everything that I do. I may not support everything that you do, but I support this county, and I pay my fair share. And I donate, and I work, and I create jobs. Now, so if we look at this proposal that I made to the county that I'm asking to y'all to approve, I don't see how anybody could say that I've not made a fair proposal. I'll put this property back on the tax rolls. I'll create a minimum of 12 jobs. And if I don't create 12 jobs here, which I will never fail at this, but if I don't create 12 jobs, I put in my proposal that I would pay the county $10,000 per job that I fall short on. I assure y'all, I will never write that check, but I will if I fail. All right? So what I'm proposing to the county, that we take a park that Mr. Scott and them cannot use. You cannot grow grass. It has all types of problems, that we put it back on the tax roll, that we create jobs out here, and that we help build that part of the community. That's all I propose to you. I appreciate the opportunity tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to get out here and try to provide jobs. It's not easy. It's not easy to try to hire people. But, you know, my partner, Dennis Music, told me one time when I gave him the idea that I was going to build Big Wood Barbecue, he told me I was crazy. All right? I thought for a long time maybe I was crazy for building that. But today, they employ 70 people. Their payroll is over $20,000 a week right there that's given back to this community, and this community has greatly supported my daughter and son-in-law. Now, not all of our decisions work like that, but we don't know which ones is and which one ain't. But I'm telling y'all that I'll take the gamble, and I'll get out here and create the jobs, and I appreciate the opportunity.
At this time, Mr. Wainwright, if you'll wait right there, we may have a question for you, but I want to read Mr. Wainwright's proposal into the record.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. I'll read this in and then you can have a question. The proposal is basically, Mr. Wainwright will pay the county $135,611, which is the grant amount obtained by the county for the soccer field, for the purpose of making public improvements to other county-owned property. Within 3 years, Mr. Wainwright will build a commercial structure on the property and create or cause to be created 12 full-time jobs on the property, which shall be maintained for a minimum of 1 year. The county shall have access to payroll data for confirmation of the job creation. The non-compliance part of it is if the 12 full-time jobs are not created and maintained for a minimum of 1 year, Mr. Wainwright, on a proportional basis, will pay the county $10,000 for each position that has not been hired and maintained. At this time, Commissioner Fleming has a question.
The question that I was gonna ask, we asked you in, but you read it, and I saw it on this proposal. Mr. Chairman, I'm good with this. I offer a motion I request that, offer the motion, you to sign off on this, and, turn it to the hands of the county attorney, let him look over this proposal and everything, and we move on with it.
At this time, I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Fleming.
I still have questions. Now I have questions for Mr. Wainwright.
That's, okay. And
I mean, we got a motion for you, anybody else even got to ask any questions, if you
No,
don't
that's
mind.
fine.
Can we have a little bit
I'm
of time for
fine.
discussion?
Commissioner Land, if you let me talk a minute, I'll back up and apologize and say I'm fine. Just give me a second. Let me get there. I understand we got questions. I understand he made a motion very fast. So at this time, Commissioner Fleming, if you'll let me entertain the questions from the board
Okay.
for the party. Commissioner Land.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wainwright, this is the first discussion you and I have had about this property and this project individually. Is that correct?
No, I called you on the phone about it and asked you, did you want to meet me out there and let's go look at it? And we talked about it, not in great detail.
Correct.
Because you said you was busy and you'd call me today.
I was in
and meet
Publix
me.
at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
care where you
Yes.
was. I mean, you
Right,
told me
right.
you'd
But-
call me back and we'd talk about it.
That's right. And since then, my dad's been in the hospital. He was supposed to get a heart cath this afternoon. That's been
told me.
postponed to in the morning. So I've been a little busy.
That's
Pipeline
right.
shuts down. I'm in the fuel business. I've been a little busy. But this is the first time you and I have talked about this in detail.
Yes, sir.
So,
Well,
question.
me and you've not talked about it in detail.
Correct. This is the first time. Why this parcel? We have property at the Catalyst site. Why? I'm just curious on your thought process. Why here for a
Well,
for a
there-
dumpster business?
There's several reasons. It's cut out of my property, for one. Sewer and water should have been in this deal. There's a lot of reasons for this property, but mainly, I'm not interested in building on the piece that y'all took from Andrew Bass to swap with him or something. I'm not interested in being in Louisville.
I said
I'm
Catalyst
interested
site.
in my development.
I understand. I said the Catalyst site. I don't know where Andrew Bass came from, but the Catalyst site.
Well, you say other properties, the county took a piece of property from Andrew Bass in trade to locate him at the Catalyst site to build jobs and opportunities.
That was, my question was why you picked here, but you kind of answered that for me. Have you filed an application with Jimmy Norris, the economic director, in detail?
I went and seen Mr. Norris. I'm not asking for tax concessions. So if you would like, you could ask Jimmy this conversation we had. I'm not asking for a tax break for y'all to give me my money back or anything like that. So what that program that you're inspiring it, I don't need it to go in business. But what it is, in case the public don't understand, they would give me a prorated tax break. If I provided so many jobs, they would refund me partially part of my money on the taxes the following year and then spread that out over a 6-year period to give me my taxes back. So I'm not asking the county for a tax break. I'm asking to actually put this back on the tax rolls so that we don't have to raise our fire assessment and all these other things, that we provide jobs and taxes, and that we don't have to prey on our people and raise taxes all the time because we anti-business. So if we have more businesses, we have more employees, and we have better tax base, and we actually can pull our taxes from something that's just sitting there needing mowed.
No, I agree with you 100% on what you're saying, but where I will disagree with you is for once, the taxpayers are sitting in a good position on this property. DDJ, Mr. Pravat, you were a member of that corporation when they gifted it to the county in 2006.
And if I might, right here, then interject for the record,
Commissioner, or Mr. Pravat.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Y'all, gentlemen, let me just do a little house cleaning here. The way it works, you go through the chair to speak. And I'm not being disrespectful, I'm not trying to get on anybody or scold anybody, but the only way we keep acting civil in here is to go through back and two. So.
I was asking Mr. Wainwright.
Commissioner
a
Land,
question.
I understand you're upset with me saying anything, but I'm gonna tell Mr. Wainwright the same thing. We can sit here and have a discussion and be respectful to each other and get a long way tonight. Or we can holler over each other, and I'll go in recess, and we won't get anything done.
Well, let's take a recess. Let's take
So-
a recess. Because I was asking Mr. Wainwright a question. I was stating something from the minutes, and he
I understand.
respectfully interjected. I'm good.
So
Yeah, I
he
think-
needs to go through me also.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pravat.
Apologize. Thank you. I was just going to interject from the comment from out of the minutes there that although I was a member of DDJ in a past life, I disassociated myself with DDJ in approximately the end of 2011, the beginning of 2012, and had no association with them since then, or any of the properties that are out here in this area.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, sir, just wanted to make sure that was clear for the record.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lamb.
Yes, sir. Back to where I was going. In 2006, DDJ Development gifted the county this 23 acres. It is appraised at $40,000 to $65,000 per acre for a total value of $923,000 to $1,495,000. Now, my question is, Mr. Wainwright, do you need the entire 23 acres to make this?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And then secondly, first I saw this tonight, these numbers. We got an agenda packet at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock on Friday that's 350-plus pages deep. This wasn't in there. You know, y'all can rush through this if you want, but I need more time, or we're gonna be here for a while, because I got a lot of questions and haven't had time to ask those questions outside of here. You know, Mr.
Well,
Wainwright's
just to
here.
clarify for the record, I mean, this is the first time we've all seen this. It just got handed out. So, I mean, but we're here to have discussion, so
No, I mean,
you're
if-
fine.
You know, if y'all want to continue forward, or, you know, and that's not a stall tactic, Mr. Wainwright.
I have all night. I'm here to do business.
Well, you know, if y'all want to keep discussion, we can go through and I have a few more questions.
I have any other questions from the board at this time?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner White?
Mr.
I will- Mr.
I'm good right now.
I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Mr. Pravat.
Yes,
So there's no conflict of interest with you representing the county on this?
No, sir, like I said, I disassociated myself in 11 or 12 and became county attorney in 2013. And I don't have any interest out there with it whatsoever.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not right now.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll say something.
Commissioner Hale.
Yes, sir, thank you. I want to have the discussion tonight, and me and Mr. Don have spoke. I think he tried to reach out to all of us before this meeting, and I'm pro-business. I want to see things grow out there, and I know him and his family have helped make that happen. Two things, though, that have been said tonight that, one is we didn't get this till late, and that's very true. Commissioner Land made a statement about what we took a consensus on, and I do want to make sure we're clear about that. I just want to make sure I got clarity on that as a board, what we decided to do and not do. And I would like some clarification on that. And thirdly, I would say, one of y'all just asked about the DD&J, and I didn't ask this question, but I do have a question and I didn't have time to get an answer. Being that it was as a corporate DD&J given to the county, but they're not, are they still in business? Is that still a business?
Dennis owns that corporation,
I mean,
Mr. Music.
So then my question, I mean, I'm just asking because I don't know, can we, with it being a corporation, can we as a county do a deal like this back to just Mr. Don? Or does it have to, do we need something from the other two investors saying that they're good with that? I don't know. That was something I thought of and didn't have an answer for.
Mr. Pravat, any
Yeah.
comment?
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
looking at you, Mr. Vec, because
Yeah.
that would be my only person I know to ask for
I
that.
think what you're looking and talking about is there was an initial provision back in 2006 that when the property was donated to the county, that there would be a reverter clause attached to
There you go.
the property.
Yep.
And to that property then it would revert back to the corporation DDJ if the soccer field wasn't, attempted to be built and under construction by a certain time, and that particular provision of the reverter was satisfied by the county. Therefore, DDJ did not have any reverter interest in the property, after that was satisfied. Now, having said that, I don't see where this reverter, is coming back into play here. It appears to me that Mr. Wainwright is making an offer to the county to purchase a particular piece of property for $135,000 in change. And so you have to deal with it in a different manner. This is not reimbursing, although they said that word a couple of times. I don't think it's reimbursing the county for anything.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Commissioner Lamb?
Guys, I'm not there tonight. It's a lot to move forward to on tonight. That particular piece of property is worth north of $300,000 at the least, potentially north of $500,000 today. And with these numbers here, I haven't had a chance to digest them or run them to look at a return on investment on what that's going to be to the community for 12 jobs. You talk about a $500,000 piece of property that was gifted to the people of this county. If it were me, and just me, I would surplus the property. I would get 3 appraisals. I'd put a for sale sign on it, and take the funds from the purchase and put it in Parks and Rec like it was originally intended for. But to make a decision tonight with no real estate appraisal, not knowing what the value of that property's worth, it's ours. It was gave to us. And just getting Mr. Wainwright's, and I'm pro-business. I'm not against it. But we got hit with a lot here in the last few minutes, and I don't have enough information to move forward tonight.
At this time, do we have any other comments from the board?
Well,
I-
Mr. Chairman, I'm going on history, and I'm listening, and not a reversal, as the county attorney said, reverter clause, county fulfill their obligation by putting the soccer field out there. But at the same time, there hasn't, I'm hearing that this property is not suitable. You can't grow anything on there. I think Mr. Scott is back there. I don't want to put him into the loop. But you can't grow anything. It's unsuitable soil. And I'm not a property appraiser, so I definitely don't know what the property would be appraised at. If there would be an appraiser, if anyone would be interested in purchasing a unsuitable soil. So, I'm like Mr. Hale, Commissioner Hale. I can't hardly remember what happened yesterday, and I'm serious about this. But I don't recall this board making such back in December. But now it could be. don't wanna, start lying with me. So I'm just saying, I'm perfect, I'm fine, and I would love to get to the bottom of this and let's get this resolved. Say we can sit here till 12 o'clock tonight. I won't sit here till 12 tonight. 'Cause, like I said, it's tough choice and tough decision. I don't have a problem with making decisions on choices, but I most certainly would like for this board to, let's continue and let's move forward in order to be a blessing to the county and to the voters, constituents, and let's don't make a septic tank out of this. We got to, and I apologize for jumping on off of the motion, but I looked at this 12 before you read it, 12 full-time jobs, minimum 1 year, and the $10,000. I love that concept.
Just, if I don't have any other questions or comment at this time, I have to entertain Commissioner Fleming's motion. Your motion still stands?
It's just 10.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just,
Yes, sir. Come to the podium, please. Commissioner.
you want to let him speak first?
Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Evening. Wayne Hanukkah, 11883 93rd Road, Live Oak. Nothing against you, Mr. Wainwright. We need business here. I'm here to hold this board to what they said they would do 4 months ago. You said there would be no land transactions until the Ethics Committee was done. That's my memory, folks. I mean, you can go look at the videos or do whatever you want, but I think if you vote on this tonight, you've all been wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner White.
Mr. Pravat,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure if we do this, I'm not saying we are, but I'm just saying if we do, is this completely above board? There's not an issue with this anywhere, anyhow?
To be able to proceed this evening, you're going to have to refer to the specific provisions of 125.045. And that's under an economic development powers of the county is granted by the legislature. To be able to utilize those powers specifically under there, the powers are to expend county funds, and in the definition included in all of that is to be able to sell property, give property, sell property for diminished value. There's several other requirements under there, but the purpose is to attract and retain business enterprises. So if you proceed tonight, you have to find that you're proceeding under this particular statute as an economic tool, if you were, to attract and develop a business. Otherwise, the provisions are out there. There's two other provisions in the statutes that deal with 125.35, which I think Commissioner Land referred to, which is surplusing of the property. And there's an additional provision that's 125.45, which deals with if you are dealing with giving property or selling property to a governmental entity or to a nonprofit entity, which is also a different way that you can dispose of the property. Now, having said that, I will note that tonight, that whatever you decide to do moving forward, you will not be able to sell this piece of property tonight and close as you move forward. You have a development agreement proposal that we just received from Mr. Wainwright. And under that proposal, it requires 14 days public notice of the proposal of a development agreement before you can adopt it. So I had supposed that you were looking at this thing tonight to say whether or not you were interested in moving forward in this direction. Having moved forward in this direction, you can come to the particular terms of an economic development agreement to be able to, and one of the tools in that economic program would be the use of this property in some manner to attract or enhance this business. But then, once you come to the language that you have in the development agreement, it has to come back before the board upon 14 days' notice to the public.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner White.
Mr. Pravat, wouldn't that better be dealt with by Mr. Norris?
Under this particular program, the economic development package that the county utilizes is a program of rebates, for the county. As one of the tools that he could also use in there, the county can utilize reduction or gifts of property and other things, but that's under a different statute, under the 125-0114 provisions, to be able to do that. So it's two different mechanisms that we're utilizing. Just like one of the mechanisms, if you recall, we had a program where you could give 100% rebate under 125-0104, I believe it was the number, to be able, that's what they were doing with Klausner, trying to give them the rebate and do that. And that's another economic tool that is allowed under the statutes. If this is to proceed tonight, because it hasn't been declared surplus property under 125, you would be limited to utilizing the tools of 125-045, which I think is the only one that would be applicable tonight.
Well, that's kind of my question. You said that if we approve this economic agreement that Mr. Wainwright has here, then it has to be turned into a
Has to be turned into a development agreement. An agreement, written agreement. That written agreement then has to be noticed to be adopted by the county at a regular meeting or a special meeting, but you have to give the public 14 days' notice to be able to adopt that development agreement.
So at that
Just like,
point,
this is a smaller version, but, just like we did, with Klausner, or what we did on some of the Dollar General provisions that, that we had to give notice ahead of time that these were taking.
well, my question is, I guess, who is going to do that development agreement with?
Well, I would hope that y'all would assign me that task to be able to put it together, for y'all and for your consideration.
Legal counsel does that, too.
I'm good. I didn't know how that works, so I didn't know if Jimmy Norris it was something he done.
And I would like to, we've make mention of Mr. Norris a couple of times tonight. I would like to say he's on county business. He's at a convention.
He is.
Any other time, he would be here, right here, ready to talk. So I just want to specify that that's the reason he's not here.
Mr. Chairman, this me.
Mr.
In my
Wainwright.
meeting with Mr. Norris, he told me he wouldn't be here tonight. He said he could be reached by phone, but he said, Don, these things are used as incentives by the county to go get somebody. He said, you've already here. It's not an incentive. And so once we discussed how in-depth it is and how little to get, I'm not asking the county for concessions. So, I'm good with not going through Mr. Norris because I'm not asking the county for a tax rebate or a tax incentive to get me to locate here. One more thing, Mr. Land mentioned an appraisal. I've never seen an appraisal on this piece of property, but I find it hard for the public to comprehend that you could take a 40-foot slime hole that you could just totally get lost in, that's 7 acres out there, that it would appraise for what Mr. Land just said. So there's a false conception out there that this is some valuable piece of property that he's saying. This piece of property, and I think Mr. Scott has walked every bit of it, and he would tell you the same thing. They was actually supposed to put fence up around the slime hole where the children wouldn't totally go missing. And I've asked every commissioner, have you walked a piece of property to where I've asked Mr. Land, have you walked a piece of property to see where you physically would know that this is a waste piece of property that is going to take a lot of extensive work to get it back to what Publix would be or something. And so I want the public to understand, and if Mr. Scott needs to come and clarify this, I think they give it a valiant effort. They did build a soccer field, but they cannot maintain it. They cannot grow grass on it. And I think he's here that would testify of that. He will tell you that this slime pit there that Mr. Land, or probably any of y'all have went back there to witness, that it is on the property. And I find it hard, because if that slime pit will appraise for that, I probably got about 60 more acres that I would take that for today. And so that's what Mr. Bailey was saying, how many drillings they're requiring of us in this retention pond, because the land has all been mined, all been flipped, all been done. And so I want the public to know that this is a fair offer to put this back into circulation to where we provide jobs here.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. At this time, Mr. Baker, did you have a comment?
Mr. Chair, can I clarify something? I was reading the minutes on that.
Mr. Baker, give me just 1 second. Commissioner Lane.
I didn't, Mr. Wainwright, I didn't. I just want to clarify this for the record. I was reading the minutes from December 19th, 2006, where it was stated from, I don't know who stated it, but those numbers aren't my numbers. I haven't seen an appraisal. Those are from the minutes, public record, December 19th, 2006, that was the value put on the property at that time. Those were not my numbers.
Sir,
just
I'm
to be
not,
clear.
I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying, I don't think that whoever said that, this matches this piece of property.
I just
I
want to be
don't,
clear.
I don't doubt whoever said that didn't mean it in 2006, because we know what happened after that. So, with that being said, Mr. Baker.
It's all right, Mr. Chairman, it's where I just want to say that I'm kind of like some of the other commissioners. It's where that we received this late Friday afternoon. And so there really wasn't an awful lot of time to take and compile the information that we needed. It's where I will tell you that it's a numbers that Commissioner Land spoke of. It is in the minutes, because that's where I had asked Eric to pull them and let's read them. And to the attorney, as far as the reverter clause, Jimmy, I could not find that in the deed. If you have a copy of that, I would like to see a copy of it, because all we have is a one-page deed. But in the minutes, it does refer to it.
It does reflect it in the minutes. And
But I think in the minutes that were reflected is where it is pertaining to a surplus of property, from what I remember from Commissioner Carruthers at the time. And so I just want to say that there are some anomalies here. I really think that you need to walk very carefully. I've called a couple of the counties that actually have Auditor General's offices within their office, and I'm not so sure that we don't need to send this to the State Auditor General's office to take and get it clarification if we're moving forward on this, because I think it needs to, your reputations cannot, you have to protect your reputation, because at the end, that's about all you got whenever you leave this world. And it's the same with Mr. Wainwright too. I'm just saying, I think because of ties in the past and stuff, in order to be above board, I think it would at least it would be worth us as a board, or you as a board, and our office as well, trying to get clarification on some of this, just to make sure that there are no issues. As far as the reverter clauses, where it's not there, but even if it were, it would go, the reverter would go back to DJJ and not
the reverter
not Mr.
clause,
Wainwright.
if that's a concern.
Mr. Pravat.
It is, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. If the reverter clause, if that is what you're concerned with, it is my opinion that the reverter has been satisfied and it is exhausted. There is no reverter sitting out there to go back to DDJ in any form.
My other comment is where we're looking at 12 jobs, and 12 jobs are 12 jobs, and welding jobs are good-paying jobs. I will give that to Mr. Wainwright. But I think we have a responsibility as well with the price of land out there and the businesses that are moving out there, and it seems like we have more and more interest that is being generated. I think that we have a responsibility as a county to take it and make sure that we gain it's the biggest bang for the buck, in order because if you have it's where he had spoke of the 12 jobs, and he also spoke of the jobs that were brought in through the restaurant. It's where those are good paying jobs, but it's where that those it's where if we can bring in other businesses and it also take and just look at that, because it's where that I think we have to do this, it's a comparison there, as well as the values of the property that is being offered for the number of jobs that are actually being presented.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, before Mr.
Oh,
Baker.
Mr. Baker, Commissioner White has a question.
You were speaking of the Auditor General. What are you saying there?
Yeah, because of the past ties to the property as one of the original donors, and because it's, like if you do a surplus sale, it's done at an auction, or either it's done in a it's done by a realtor, and you actually have an ordinance that actually speaks to that a realtor is able to be used. But those are done, and Travis had mentioned possibly having an appraisal done on the property to see actually what the property is actually worth in comparison to other properties in that area. But I think that you need to know that and know these things in order to move forward. It's taken and just look at donating a piece of property that was donated back in 2006, whenever all this first began. I agree. The property is not being used by the county, and it needs to be back on the tax roll. But I think it needs to be done properly as you do that. And it's where that, like I say, I just have some concerns. You just need to make sure you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I reckon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Baker.
Before Mr. Baker leaves,
Commissioner Fleming.
I hear we talking about having a appraiser, and to pay for that appraiser, this would be on the county's burden, am I correct?
Do what now? Yes,
be on the county.
yes. It would be. It wouldn't be his.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I think it would be a conflict of interest if you had actually asked the
I
other
understand
party
that,
to take it.
but I'm just saying, that's money that we spent, put it out there.
But it's where that can be done, several $100s. It's where, the other thing I wanted to say is, unless that's what y'all were given tonight, I don't think you actually have an economic development plan. I think you need to know what's being proposed, because as it is right now, without something, it's where there's nothing to tie Mr. Wainwright. If he got in a bind from even, once it is given to him, it doesn't tie him to take and build that. It's where that, he can pay the $10,000 per acre, and he could sell it off to someone else. It would still get it on the tax roll, but it's where it'd be at a loss to the county.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Can I say something?
Mr. Wainwright.
I find that amazing. Barry has that perspective like him. If you, Mr. Land said earlier, this was donated for a distinct purpose. It wasn't donated for the county to get it out there and have an auction to see if you could make more money on it. So why would anybody ever give anything to the county if once you decided you wasn't doing, it didn't suit your purpose, that we're just going to sell it? We either build a park out there, we put bathrooms and everything that the county promised us, like Mr. Scott will sit here and tell you, we was promised bathrooms and all full facilities out there, and the county's done nothing. Part of that grant, Mr. Land, was actually even used at First Federal Complex over there, so I'm actually paying a grant back that didn't even go to all the way out there. So the reason Mr. Berry is a clerk and not a developer, because he knows nothing about unsuitable soil. So what liability would the county go to provide out here? So why don't, when someone donates a piece of property and it don't fit our interest and we don't do what we lived up to promise, why don't we just see if we can put it on the taxpayers? I sold a piece of property to Popeyes this week, all right? Popeyes will locate with one business. How many employees do y'all think that'll bring to this town? Minimum of 12? So we're talking about one business. So when he says 12 jobs is not worth it, it's 12 to those people that it is, all right? How many of you doubt me in this room that I can take that piece of property and probably turn it into 200 jobs and put it on the tax rolls? I don't have to sit here and tell everything that I intend to do to work, but how many of you in this room, I build things for a living, I create jobs for a living. So if you want to doubt me, how many jobs have you created? How many businesses have you created? I haven't signed the back of checks since I was 26 years old. I signed the front. Now, that's not being arrogant, but I've come to this county as a proposal, and I think it's a disgrace for the clerk to stand up here and tell me that 12 jobs is not important to this county. Now, does anybody doubt that once the dirt work is done on that piece of property, by the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, how many jobs do you think we'll actually create? So somebody's got to go do that work. I'm out there today doing that work. I'm in this community today. I am one of the ones that donated this piece of property that I didn't get 1 red cent for that I was promised. No tax breaks, no sewer, no bathrooms, no nothing. I've donated to this community all my life. I'm not asking for anything, but either the county stamps up, builds the complex they promised Jimmy, Dennis, and Don. It won't be out there liquidated and sold. It would be used for the purpose that it was given to the county, or give me the opportunity to pay the grant back, take the money and use it in another park, and allow us to get back to developing that piece of property. Now, I'm not being rude or something like that, but I feel that when someone who's counting the money of the county is up here working against me for creating jobs, that's exactly the way I took it, and I think everybody else in this room would take it that way, that 12 jobs is not important to this town. I'll turn it into a lot more, but 12 jobs is important to the 12 people who has the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lamb.
Mr. Wainwright, you addressed me multiple times in those comments. You told me that you supported me during my campaign.
Yes, sir,
because
I did.
You felt like I had very good business sense.
I'm not,
That's what you said.
no, I said that I felt you had a business background.
Okay, all right. So it would behoove me, it would behoove this board, any one of these boards, to make a business decision with one of our assets, not knowing what the value of what that piece of asset is worth. Now, let me finish. Now, did the county live up to their end of the deal? I'm gonna talk about that. I don't know. They were supposed to build soccer fields. I think you mentioned Mr. Scott made every attempt that he could. But let's talk about today. Is the highest and best use of that property a sports complex? Absolutely not. Now, I, as well as Mr. Baker, are stewards of the taxpayers' dollars and their assets. That's what we get elected to do. So I would be doing, and this board would be doing, making a very hasty decision with limited information on a short notice. It would be a poor business decision, and it would lack total concern for this county's interest if we make a decision tonight that hastily. Now, whether you supported me or not, that's neither here nor there. Mr. Pravat,
Yes, sir.
wasn't speaking to you, but I speak to you because you're an attorney. I Googled a case. I've done a lot of research. There was a case, Matheson versus Miami-Dade County, and I didn't write the date down. But Mr. Matheson, he sued Miami-Dade County because of Mr. David Beckham, the famous soccer player, sought the county to give him some property to build a $175 million soccer stadium. Mr. Matheson lost. He lost the suit. But what the court said was the sale required Miami Properties, which is Mr. Beckham, to A, construct and operate a sports stadium, spend a minimum of $175 million to purchase the land and construct the sports stadium, create and maintain no less than 50 permanent jobs and the stadium within 5 years, with the majority of the jobs being full-time, having an annual salary greater than the cost of living wage. D, comply with county small business enterprise during the construction. E, hold at least 2 job fairs to recruit local employees. And F, develop a permanent skilled jobs program. Now, what Mr. Matheson stated after that trial, he said, and he lost, the benefit of competitive bidding statute is to protect the public from collusive, corrupt, sweetheart, and backroom deals made with local government's favored constituents. Now, I'm not saying that's the case tonight. This guy said that and he lost. What I'm saying is we're a steward of the taxpayers' dollars. There's no way on the world I can look at this and look at those people out there and tell them this is a good deal for our county, not knowing what the value of that property is, not knowing what wages you're going to pay. There's way too many unknowns. And that would be a hasty, poor business decision on my part. You're not asking for any incentive, but you're asking us to give you a piece of property that's worth in excess of $350,000. I do have a real estate license. I do have a degree in real estate. I know what I'm talking about with that. And I say when in excess because Kubota sold just down the street for north of $800,000. Is it that property? No. But I can assure you it would be used as a comparable sale for that parcel. Now, speaking of the reverter, if we didn't live up to our end of the deal, I'm okay giving DDJ Development a first right of refusal as a surplus property. But I'm sitting here as a steward of the taxpayers' dollars, and I can't look those people out there in the eye and tell them that I'm going to give you a piece of property, and I don't even know what it's worth. I don't know how much money you're paying these folks. I can't do that tonight. I can't.
Thank you, Commissioner Land. At this time, Mr. Wainwright, the second Mr. Wainwright, you please make your way to the podium. Name and address for the record, sir.
Wesley Wainwright, 16672 129th Road, McAllen.
Welcome, sir.
Gentlemen, there's a lot of stuff going on here tonight, and I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I'm not speaking as a benefit for me or Don. My business is on the south end of the county, and I'm happy and content to just be right there. Mr. Land, and not to, just a point of order. Since you've proceeded on with all this discussion, there hasn't even been a second, so I don't know where this is going yet. But since we've dove off into this pond, we're going to go ahead and swim it. So, Mr. Land, you opened up this entire discussion talking about ethics. There's a way, and then you just finished it talking about being good stewards. And I agree with both of those precepts in any business endeavor that I go into. Having said that, I think if we go back and reflect on all that's been said and all that's been done and how this whole thing started back in 2006, I think as a matter of good business, may not be, I can't go into all the legalities of it, but I know as I'm old school. Business for me is I'm going to be honorable. And number one, the county never did live up to their obligation to what that property was donated for. That's paramount to me. If somebody's going to entrust something to me to bring it about and do something with it, if I can't follow through, and I've had to do this before, look, I can't do it. Let me give it back to you. Let me give you your money back. Let me get whatever the case may be. You need to find somebody else because I don't have the time or resources to do it, to accomplish what was agreed on. So in its simplest, basic form, that's the way I see this. This is a piece of property that's never come to fruition in what was promised to be done. You've got an individual that's willing to step out, and I'm going to tell you something. For those folks that's been here their lifetimes, that whole area, there was nothing 25 years ago, there was nothing south of the Ford place. Busy Bee was a little old shack that we'd go out and buy off-road fuel for. Trucks would stop in off the interstate. There was no, well, I can even go back further. There was nothing past the Ford place until 1982, I think it was, when McDonald's came in out there. Because I was a junior in high school and I had friends that were going out there to get jobs. We didn't have job options back then. Well, other than those that grew up on the farm, we always had plenty of work. But the point is that Don and Dennis had a vision with all that wasted, voided, weed, refuse of land that existed out there and was an eyesore for decades. And they took that vision and they brought to this community, let's just look at Walmart, let's look at Lowe's, let's look at everything out there north of the Ford place. That took vision, that took effort, that took a lot, it took a hell of a lot of hard work. And I'm not saying that, you know, that we owe it to Don to do this. I'm not saying that at all. I think from a business perspective and an honorable way of looking at this, we failed as a county. I'm sorry, I keep saying we, because I shouldn't say that. I think the county failed in their effort to do what they said they would do.
You can say that, you was here.
Well, I was there, I came in 2008, so this had kind of transpired before that. But I will say this, in my experience here, there has been properties, even without a reverter clause. It's the same thing that me and my dad have spent a number of years setting up his farm in a trust. And that trust is set up and specifically that his wishes are abided by when he's gone. Now, we've both spent a lot of years planning this thing and working this thing out to keep our business that we've built together going as a trust. And I use that word specifically because this property was donated kind of in that sense. And I don't care whose hands it goes to, this being original part of that triangle group, I think it's an honorable effort on the county's part. If they're not going to do anything with it, give it back to them and let somebody do something with it and put it back on the tax rolls. Now, finally, what we've got here tonight and has been expressed by the county attorney and y'all as well, at the very least, all you're going to accomplish tonight in approving this is just to move forward and evaluate it further. And I think you owe it to the county as good stewards, as being ethical, to do just that and go ahead and give it its due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright.
I had one more thing, and I'll be through.
Yes, sir.
You know, when the road was going through there, we caught a lot of flack. Grant was there. Mr. Carruthers sat up here at the commission meeting and said that road was gonna make Don Dennis and Jimmy filthy rich. And it was a fight to even get the road through there. And now we look at the traffic that goes through there, it's just the main part of everything going on. But I know these land out here. You know, while everybody else was home, I was out there on a bulldozer pushing. And that place don't look like it did 20 years ago. And where that road goes through that soccer field, I remembered equipment that was dropped right there that they could do nothing with, and they felt they couldn't build the road through there. So how you know I know slime is there and unsuitable that Mr. Berry don't know anything about selling that piece of property? But I seen equipment go completely out of sight in that road, and they had to figure out how to build the road. So Mr. Darabi come up with the fact that they could put mat down, and they use that geofabric to where they could drive over it. That they literally could take a piece of equipment and push the boom as far down as they go, and they'd never touch anything. So if the road goes right through there, and the road ditches is the same way, does the commission think that the land up there has a berm all the way around it and is a holding pond? The same exact holding pond that went all the way around to where we put the big clay hill that used to be out there over 150,000 yards. Mr. Bailey designed it, and I moved it to where the old folks' home is sitting now. How many of y'all remember fishing there? I do. Barry, do you remember that? Okay, I do, because I've developed this piece of property. It's been like a baby to me to where I've done it. Now, I've got it to that point. If the county had done what Mr. Pravat hoped they would do when we donated this property, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. I'm not blaming Mr. Scott, but there ain't been no resources put out there. The county has a road department. They have inmates. They could have been expanding it. They give up on it because the ground was unsuitable. All right? They just totally give up on it. And for years, I've sat there and looked at that Sunday afternoon when all the kids was out there playing, gates open, beer cans everywhere, and I see the parties and all going on, and I'm thinking, this is not what I give this piece of property for. So I would call and say, Mr. Scott, anything we could do about it? Call Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, anything we can do about these people out here on Sunday afternoon with these beer parties and all? County just give up on it. So I want the public to understand. I want one person in this public to come forward and say that the county has done what they promised DDJ they would do. I don't care if the property's worth more money. I would just as soon have the park as turn around and go do the work, all right? But y'all haven't done what you promised me we would do. So I think it's only right, like Wesley said, that I get the opportunity to go develop my property that I give y'all. And so y'all can look at that any way you want, but I don't see how the public can sit here and say that Mr. Wainwright is asking for one concession. The county didn't live up to what they done. I simply want to pay the grant that y'all could take that money as an additional $100 and some odd $1,000 and go build our children some more parks and do. And let me turn this back into what it should be. One other factor that nobody knows. I've been working with a housing development. Mr. Bailey will tell you this. I've got him designing it. The reason Mr. Land asked me today, could I get by with less? He knows the dilemma that I have out there. But yet he don't want to sit here and tell the county, can I get by with less? All right? Remember where the old railroad tracks went through? Does anybody lived here long enough that they remember where the railroad tracks went through there? Railroad tracks run level, don't they? Okay? Where'd the railroad go? All the way through. You remember that? Was you a little kid? Do you remember where the railroad tracks went through there? Okay, well, I do.
I was born in 78.
All right? Well, they was running in 78. All right? And so the railroad tracks are dead level. And so the lowest part of my property is that piece. Well, when I started clearing out there, Mr. Alcorn called me and he says, hey, you own the county property? I said, there's no way. Fence is up the hill. Well, in errors of wisdom or whatever, the railroad track is part of this piece of property. So not only are we hindering development out there, it would cost me an astronomical fund to put lift stations in for a 150-house housing subdivision that we're trying to plan right now. But if I had that railroad track, I can gravity feed it all the way to 72nd Terrace. And Mr. Bailey will sit here and tell you all that. I went to a city meeting the other day. They're begging for housing. There's no rentals in this county. There's no houses for sale. Fellas, we're trying. We're trying to develop stuff. But I need that railroad track area to run my sewer. And Mr. Land knew good and well when he asked y'all tonight, could I get by with less? I need that piece of property. And so not only am I going to bring jobs, I need it to bring houses also. And so I've been as honest with the commission as I could be. I don't want to waste your time. But fellas, this is important to me. It's important to our development. It's important to our town. Now, if Mr. Scott would come up here tonight and say, I'll follow through and build the 4 fields, I'll start cleaning, I'll build the bathrooms, I'll do the sewer and water that y'all was promised, I'll do all that, I'll say, good, start tomorrow, and I'll withdraw my proposal to y'all. But if not, give me the benefit of the doubt to build this business and build this community. And fellas, I'm as straight and honest as I can be. I didn't give you the property to surplus. I give it to you to build a ball field.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright.
Mr. Chairman, before you,
Commissioner Hill.
yeah, Mr. Don, I wrote something down here, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but you or Mr. Bailey, one, just what you're talking about, I had wrote down. Any idea what the cost involved, infrastructure-wise, to get this 23 acres to be suitable for all these things you're talking about? I mean, I have no idea what that would cost.
Well, until you get the actual depth, this material is different, like Mr. Bailey said. Some of it dries out and becomes usable. Some of it just stays in a slurry form, and since that is a pond, where the fence is a berm, a clay berm, and it was where the pipes are still there to where they pump the slurry up into it. So it depends on, is it all slurry or is it hardened up at any point? It's crusty to about 2 foot. When you've seen Publix go in the same exact berm went around Publix. So when they took it out, the slurry started to fall, and they never did get out of the slurry at Publix. They bridged over it.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't cheap, though.
You know, their Publix, it's probably public record, it was over $3.5 million to do the dirt work for just the Publix side. Now, I'm not gonna spend that amount of money, but there is, when y'all notice that, there is a big balance in there that needs to take place for all the frontage to be able to be usable. So you would rob part to put in the lower areas. So there's extensive amount of work, and it ain't just the 12 jobs. Fellas, one business brings 12 jobs. What can we bring with everybody's help? And, you know, I want everybody to realize, I'm gonna make money on this piece of property. That whole entire piece of property is paid for. We've suffered through all the problems. We got a valuable piece of property that's fixing to develop. So if people in there sit there and say, oh, Donna Dennis is gonna get rich, that ain't gonna happen. But we have worked and worked and worked to see this come to fruition. Now it's time to develop and bring these jobs. The city is finally y'all on board to start bringing jobs and bringing sewer and water and all. You was in some of these meetings the other day. There is a need in our community for housing right now and businesses and jobs. You know, and I think it's time that we all take advantage of that.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. Did you have a question, Commissioner Lamb?
I just want to tell Mr. Wainwright that I appreciate what you've done for this county. I mean, I see it, and I hope you get rich, filthy rich, as you said. There's not a jealous bone in my body for anybody that goes out there and puts it all on the line to make it happen like you, Dennis, have done. I respect y'all for that. I appreciate that. I didn't know this meeting had anything to do with water. When I asked Mr. Bailey about the additional space, I was really talking about the particular project and why he picked the southwest corner way back there in the back. That's got to do with water and sewer. I think this whole board will be, I'm on board. If we need to talk about sewer to help get 150 homes, and that's what this is about, I'm ready to help you any way we can. But that wasn't what we were talking about tonight. So I just wanted to clarify that I appreciate what you're doing. We're sitting in different seats tonight. I'm a representative of the county and their money, and we're not agreeing, and that's okay. But I appreciate what you're doing out there in the private sector. You've done a lot of stuff for Suwannee County over the years, whether it be donating or just developing and increasing jobs and the tax base. So take no disrespect. We're just sitting in different seats tonight.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what I propose to the county is what I know I can do. I don't know I can bring 150 homes yet. I'm in the process of doing it. But if the sewer and water is available, then that's a hurdle right there that we're past. All right. And so if we can provide that, I had a call last week that there's starting to be so much congestion at the post office with all the rentals. How great is that? Remember, for years, we sat there with pick and save doing nothing. Wonder what somebody will ever do with that. Now that it is, they bottleneck there. So they come to me and said, hey, do you think we could pave the old Hamilton Avenue out there? Well, you know what that leads into? Sewer and water. Sewer and water. And where does the sewer and water need to be? On the railroad tracks, because it's the lowest place. Who owns about 400 foot of that? The county. Hinders me in doing it. So when there's more pieces to this puzzle, y'all, but what I'm proposing to the county is what I know I can do. I know I can put this factory, and I know I can do 12 jobs. Anything else I do on that, y'all would just hitch your wagon to it and say, hey, that was a bonus. That was a good decision.
I have any other questions for Mr. Wainwright at this time?
Not for Mr. Wainwright, but I do have one more.
Have a comment?
Yeah, well, one more question, Mr. Chairman. I think Commissioner Land mentioned this a while ago, and I had wrote it down as well. Is the county, is there anything in the minutes from that 2006 or any agreements that you guys had that if we didn't complete or construct the original project that the property was given to us for, that, like you said, I think it was Commissioner Land said, we have to give it back to them, or we need to return it to them if the projects are not completed? I know sometimes that's written into some contracts. I just didn't know if that was part of this one. If you recall, I don't know.
I had briefly reviewed the same minutes that he's looking at, and I honestly just can't remember.
I will read, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Lamb.
I will read the comments made by Commissioner Carruthers. So Commissioner Carruthers observed that recent history of the board concerning donated property is to require a reverter clause to include a stipulation that once the county made improvements, the property would be offered to the donor
on a first right of refusal basis should the county surplus the property. He stated such a clause needs to be stipulated in the deed. He also expressed concern about the donor reserving the right to name the property, which could lead to embarrassment for the board. That goes on to a next, then Mr. Pravat talks about the name, and that's all that I see in here about, anything about reverter, but, I mean, you're welcome to look at them.
Anything else, Commissioner Hale?
One more thing, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm
There's
not
been
rushing you.
a
I'm
lot of
just,
talk here tonight, and I want to help Suwannee County Grow. I want to help Mr. Wainwright with what he's trying to accomplish, and he made a point there about housing. I tell you, we've been trying to find housing for some family members, and it's just not here. But someone made the comment to make sure that we're above board, or make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing regarding all of this. I don't disagree, and I want to. And if we are, and everything is good, I don't have a problem with it. But I don't know, unfortunately, we haven't got a clear answer on that tonight. A lot of it has been answered, but not all of it. But and I don't know where we got to go to get that, is what I'm saying. Someone mentioned audit. I don't know if that was Barry or somebody. I don't know. That probably is a time-consuming thing. Is it something we can just have someone look at, or council look at, and have a little more detail to come back and just say, yep, it's absolutely all good to go? And I would like to see what you have there on those minutes. I would like to have a chance, not at the moment, but I would like a chance to look at those.
Mr. Wainwright, let me let this young lady speak. Welcome, ma'am. Just name and address for the record. You can pull that mic down a little bit if you need to.
My name's Carol Stuquillen. I live at 1016 Pearl Avenue, Live Oak, Florida.
Welcome.
I've lived here all my life in this county. I grew up here. And I've seen a lot of changes. And here lately, I have watched the county commissioners and the city council, and I've been to some of their meetings as well. And I don't see such good decisions coming out of these meetings. Now, I don't understand why, when he said what he said about tabling this matter tonight, why you wouldn't agree to that, because you're not out anything. And as far as this reverting back for whatever grant y'all got for it, when DDJ gave y'all this property, they gave it to you. It's yours. It's yours to make a decision on. Now, why wouldn't you want to get appraisals on it to see what it is worth? Because that place is growing out there. Publix came in. There might be another big corporation that's willing to put the money into making that property feasible for building on. But to deny the citizens of Suwannee County the opportunity to get more money for that, for the county in general, where it could be used for other things, that's just crazy. I'm sorry. Unless you're gaining something from this, it should not go any further until it has been completely discussed and appraised. Because if you can sell it for more and give him first choice at buying it, then fine. But DDJ gave it to you. Now, unless they stipulated in there, okay, we're giving it to you, but if you don't make these changes, we're taking it back. If they didn't put that in there, they can't be making you feel guilty about wanting to get appraisals for it and making more money off of it. That's insane. This smells of the election fraud. We don't want y'all come looking at our voting machines because we cheated. Or, we don't want an appraisal on this because, he could gain from it. After his year up with the 12-employee thing, he could turn around and sell it for what the appraisal would get.
Thank you.
That is wrong.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Commissioner Hale, did you have any other comments?
I think that was it, yes, sir.
Hancock,
That's all I got here.
Mr. Hancock's.
Mr. Hancock?
Bo Hancock, 6135 Wiggins Road, Live Oak. All this right now is a moot point. Because your attorney's already told you got to have a development, or need a development agreement. Going to take 2 weeks to put that together. Commissioner Land has brought up, the comment, or the ethics stipulation. And I vaguely remember it the same way he does. If you're going to say something at a public meeting like that, then stand up and stand behind it. If that's what it proves out to be, you're going to have 2 weeks to do it. You can't do anything else with it tonight. You don't have a development agreement. You have his proposal. But I've sat out here, and I've also, since I've been coming to county commission meetings for a number of years, I can also remember someone wanting to put a sanitary landfill, a garbage dump, on the northwest corner of I-10 and 129. I won't mention any names, but I don't believe that someone that would want to put a dadgum garbage dump up there in the area I'm talking about is where the water tower is, or in that area, because there's an 85-foot hole or a 85-foot deep hole up there that they could fill in. And if it hadn't been for the FAA saying you can't do that because of the bird problem, that's what stopped it. Or we may not be seeing anything up there. But now all of a sudden, that's a nice piece of property, or that area is developing now. Do you think it would have developed with a garbage dump up there? No answer, huh? So be careful of who you're dealing with.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Welcome, Mr. Snowden. Name and address, sir.
Wendell Snowden, 3302 104th Street, Wellborn. I first read about this land deal in the Lake City Reporter was the first I heard about it. And all the meetings I've ever come to since probably 2006, I don't think I've ever agreed with anything that Don Wainwright brought in. So I don't have a dog in the fight. But I do agree with him tonight. And he donated, he owned the property, it was on the tax rolls. He paid taxes on it. He donated it to the county. It's pretty simple. He donated it free, and the county didn't use it for the reason that they accepted the property. So now he's wanting to buy it back, not for $900,000, or whatever the value of the land may be. But the $135,000, he didn't receive that when he donated it, but now he's going to pay the money. So I don't really see that the value of the land matters at the point of where you're going to decide about giving it back to Mr. Wainwright or not. I think the value would play a big role if he did not want it. And then you were not going to build the soccer park, then get the appraisals and sell it to the highest bidder. But in this case, it's pretty simple. He made a statement about how are you going to get people in the future to donate properties that you might need if you don't use it for the purpose that you receive it, and then you turn around and sell it for a higher value. In a case where the donor did not ask for it back, I could see that and would agree with it. But in this case, the man donated the property. He's asking for it back. He wants to develop it and create jobs, which 12 jobs may not be very many, but those 12 jobs could lead into more jobs if the facility is increased and other things are put in there. To do with the decision of 4 months ago about the ethics complaint, I don't think it applies in this case. I don't think that applies at all to what he's asking for. This is not a deal where you had something out and It's being sold. He donated the property. He owned it and gave it to you. And now he's just simply asking for it back. So I think you guys ought to do the right thing here. And on a final note, maybe I shouldn't say this, but it seems to me like there's a big conflict with Mr. Wainwright and Commissioner Land here. I don't know what the conflict is, but there was an awful lot of hostility thrown out on the floor. And we don't need that here. We don't need that in this room. I think that if, Mr. Land, you have a problem with Mr. Wainwright, you ought to take it outside.
I do not have a problem. Mr. Wainwright, do I have a problem?
Sounded like it.
There you go.
That being it, that's all I have to say. I think you should just
Thank you, Mr.
listen to what he has to say and go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Do I have any other comment from anyone on the board?
Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to my original question. I know Mr. Wainwright said that he needed to be doing what he got to do yesterday or today. Busy, and I know business is business. And it's like this board is stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I always said my desire is to do what's right for everybody. Sometimes it may seem hard, it may seem bad. And you did tell me that you can't not absolutely wait. You didn't say that, but can we do, as the county attorney said, like the 14 days advertisement, or give an opportunity for ethics or whatever Commissioner Land is asking for? I'm just ready to move forward. I did have a motion out there concerning let's move forward. It is saying that anything was binding, but it's just to move forward. Let's move from this point and start moving forward to what you're trying to get accomplished.
You know,
Mr. Wainwright.
Commissioner, I don't like kicking the can down the road, and I understand what Mr. Land said tonight. I was in that meeting. It was that there would be no new land transactions, and they said, well, we're not in the process of buying any land right now. And so my issue is that, you know, I don't want to keep coming I don't like coming to these meetings.
I agree.
But this is the thing. I would like y'all to vote to move it forward, to move approval, and then I don't want to be a part of anything that's unethical any more than y'all would be. So if we find out this is not the proper manner, then we're not moving forward anyway. Gotcha. And so if it is the proper manner, then we ain't wasted the time. We can advertise it and move along. And you know, to Mr. Hancock, there's a lot of naysayers in this county. I take that with a grain of salt. If you compare what I've donated to this county and what he's donated, I'd stand right here and take my record any day of the week. I get out here and work for the community. I try hard. And so what I'm saying is I don't want to kick this can down the road to where you get more opposition and more opposition. If y'all wanted to fill this room with people that was for it tonight, I assure you, I could stack them out there to the road. And if y'all want to get a bunch of people and let them get out here and say, oh, let's get against it, all we're going to have is a free-for-all, and we're still not going to accomplish anything.
That's right.
If we do what's right, sometimes the decisions are a little harder than others. You know, I'm asking the commission to let me purchase this back, create jobs. I don't think kicking the can down the road is going to anything but stir it and make it more. If y'all find anything that is not above board, they're going to kick it back, and we'll go a different route.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
With my motion, I withdraw my motion, but I would reinstate the motion that I offer motion that we move forward. And as Mr. Wainwright stated, if we find anything that's unethical, that we would just drop it. Now, maybe the attorney, you need to interpret what,
I think
better way.
Mr. Pravat's going to have to help.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Not to interrupt, but I think what Mr. Fleming, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Commissioner Fleming, I think what you're asking for is for us,
Move
county,
forward. Yeah.
to have our attorney or whoever do research to see if everything's above board,
Yes.
as was stated.
Yeah, let's move forward, and let's just don't kick the can down the road, and let's just don't sit still.
I agree with all that. I would just add this, that, and I know you don't want to kick the can down the road, and I don't want you to have to, but, how long would it take to prepare not just this here, but an actual, this is a proposal, but actual, my train of thought. What is the legal document for this here?
We would typically have a developer's agreement. That's what we've done in the past.
Okay.
And actually, the county attorney is the one that would typically assemble that.
Well, my thing is, let's move forward. Allow the county attorney to proceed, to do what he can do, handle this situation for us. And let's move forward. Let everybody be happy. I don't want to sit still on this tonight. As I said earlier, there will be a decision made, and let's just move forward.
I have that in the form of a confusing motion, I believe.
Yes, sir. It's a confusing moment, but I've heard so much.
Mr. Chairman, I think what I was looking for was maybe not a motion, but maybe a consensus of the board for us to get all of our ducks in a row. Have, I guess, our attorney do this, bring it back to us, but also find out one of the questions I was asking about. I mean, all this may not matter if there's somewhere something in there that says we didn't uphold our obligation, it just goes back.
No, I think, that's what we're asking for. They built a soccer field, they've not maintained it, they've not put bathrooms. I'm asking because they haven't done, all right? But I'm not looking at a reverter cause. I want to pay for the property where it's not like the counties give me anything. I want y'all to make a motion tonight that you accept my proposal. I pay for the property, and then there is no reverter clause. Now, like Wesley said, I think Mr. Scott would say the same thing. The county has not lived up to their agreement with us, but I'm not up here crying that. I'm saying let's move forward. I think the community can run by there. The grass is that high, all right? And they can see the county has not lived up to what they promised us. And so, but I'm not trying to muddy the water. I simply want to buy the property back to create the jobs and propose a business proposal to bring jobs to the county.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Fleming.
now, this won't be no confusion.
Okay.
I'm going to offer a motion that you sign the agreement, sign the letter, and let the county attorney look over it, and let's just move forward. And if anything is found in there that's not right, then, right naturally, then we can change it.
Mr. Chairman.
That's my motion. Back to my original motion.
Okay, I have to let these
Yeah,
folks
go
speak
ahead.
right here.
That's fine.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Name and address again, or just name, please.
Carol Quillen. We've heard the whole time how Mr. Wainwright has told us no grass will grow at that place. Now he's saying the grass is this high. Which is it? That makes no sense. And personally, the fact, I know Mr. Bravad has indicated that since 2006, he hasn't been with DDJ, but the fact that he had an association and was in that group is a conflict of interest, I'd say, personally. But, why can't you table this? Why should you try to ramrod a proposal through without thinking it through thoroughly and getting appraisal? The property is the city's, not Mr. Wainwright. For him to pay $120-something thousand back to y'all, get 23 acres in a prime area of town is just irresponsible on your part.
Thank you for your comments.
That's just crazy.
Mr. Jackson. Just name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Andy Jackson, 16906 County Road 250. I've sat here and listened to this, and, I've heard insults go all kind of different ways, but why not have the property appraised? I just asked that. I mean, I don't know what it's worth. I wouldn't give you a red cent for it, because I know, I was here before you. I know about the railroad track. I know what all went on out there. But just appraise the property, and then y'all know where you stand. If you still sell it to him for whatever he's offering y'all, and it's worth twice that, well, y'all have gifted him then. He's talked about how he's gifted y'all. And you know, that's y'all's decision. But find out what the property is worth before you make any decision, is what I would do if I was sitting on this board. I'd ask for it to be done. Y'all got to agree to that, but that's what I would do.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for your comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Land?
I appreciate everyone's coming, and speaking tonight, and I mean, it's not easy to sit up here and talk about tough conversations. But if we didn't learn anything from the fire station debacle property, let's slow down, let's get it right. Let's have the Auditor General or whoever, I didn't say let's look at it, let's send it to ethics to see if ethics, my ethics comment was about what we agreed on when we submitted the ethics thing about laying it. But if we need to seek outside counsel, outside of Mr. Pravat, to alleviate him from any potential risk, to the Auditor Generals, get an appraisal on the property, I mean, couple weeks, a month. I mean, if we didn't learn anything, we need to slow down. We're stewards of other people's money, and we need to get it right. And I saw this on the agenda about 4:30 on Friday. I've had 2 business days to digest all of this, and now we have a developer, a successful developer, asking for this county to move forward, giving him, he's not asking for incentive, but he's asking for us to give him a property that he was a former associate of back. We don't know the value. I mean, I think we owe it to the people of Suwannee County just to slow down and make sure we get it right. The last thing we need is another boo-boo post-action.
Thank you, Commissioner Lamb. Oh. Mr. Baker.
It's where I'm not one of the voting members, but it's where, I gotta say, it's where Keith and I have been working on this, trying to see what we had. I've had Eric pulling files and stuff, trying to see where we're at as far as the old records and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff there. It's just listening to the conversation, it's evident that y'all haven't seen it either. I'm not being critical, I'm just saying that's just the way it is, and I'm sure there's other stuff I hadn't. I didn't know until this afternoon, whenever Eric reported up, that we have an ordinance that actually addresses this as far as the surplus property and how that we can get rid of it and stuff, and how it varies from the statute, which the statute doesn't allow. But it's where I know that I have some other research in order to talk with other clerks and just make sure that we're above board.
Thank you.
I also need, it's where some of the clerk's offices have the Auditor General's function within their office. It's where I like to be able to draw from that. I can't do that tonight. Our office is not prepared. I'm just going to tell you. I poured that much data and just the time to be able to see what we got. But it's where I like to be able to at least talk with some of the other clerks and see what we have and make sure that everything is right.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing I want to say.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Fleming. Pull your microphone just a little. Thank you.
Going back, I heard Mr. Jackson say that how long he had been here before Mr. Wainwright purchased that property. I think I'm in that age group too. I remember back in 77, 78 when I started, I was employed at the W.S. Badcock Corporation, and I thought nothing would never, ever be built out there on that site. All it was an old rock mine. Me and another fellow was having a conversation, not about this, but how he worked there in 73 and the slime, and just because businesses is coming out there, but people putting money in these businesses, they're putting money in there to get their businesses done, but they're making money out of it. Now, just because business is going out there now and everything look good, but I want to say this, when DD&J purchased that property, I was saying in my, I'm like Mr. Jackson, there's no way in the world would I have put 1 cent in that because of the holes and the pits. And I know from the time that I worked out there at the corporation, when it rained, the water, those craters would fill up, and that water would just come gushing out of there. And I applaud you fellas for what you've done. You know, you had to have a vision in order to get this. Now that business is going out there, and that's, to me, all the business is going, that's high dollar property. You know, we feel as if it's high dollar. But I want to maintain what I'm saying, because you know what you got, you know what you have to do, and I just have to support the efforts of trying to get some things accomplished. And there's no shade. I don't feel that there's no shade, Mr. Chairman. I just feel that these individuals, when they come before us like this, they have to have a vision. Their vision is to do the things that Mr. Wainwright is talking about. That's why I said I'm ready to move forward. I won't be, as Commissioner Carruthers stated in 2006, about the embarrassment. I think it would be an embarrassment if we wouldn't help a business trying to locate here. And that business would bring other businesses, like a mom and pop situation. One support the other, and the other support the other, and it brings this. And we're sitting up here making an argument or case out of something that really doesn't matter. Because at some point in time, we're all gonna leave it. And I would much rather move forward. Let's get this stuff behind us, and tomorrow is gonna be another day.
At this time, Commissioner Fleming, I have to entertain a motion that you had previously made, if you still stand with that
I
motion.
still stand with it, Mr. Chairman.
Could you restate that motion for clarity for me, where I can move forward?
Okay, I'm offering the motion tonight for you to sign off on it and allow attorney to execute this agreement.
Is everyone clear on the motion that's on the floor, as far as the board? I'm on it.
May I reread it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Make sure I've got it.
Thank you, Eric.
Commissioner Fleming made a motion to accept Mr. Don Wainwright's proposal for acquisition of property on 72nd Trace and move forward with a developer's agreement contingent on the county attorney's verification that the actions proposal was ethical.
That the what?
That the actions and proposal was ethical.
I don't think he wants that burden.
Well, I can't make that determination, ethically. Let me try to help as what I think is how we can move forward.
Okay?
All right. Moving forward, at this point, it's been a proposal by Mr. Wainwright to do this. You can go to say that we would like to move forward in developing a developer's agreement that would include these terms that Mr. Wainwright has suggested and others that I will suggest as part of a development agreement. And that you would do this pursuant to Section 125.045, because you do not know what the value of the property, is out there. So it would have to be offered to him or sold to him pursuant to that provision. And then bring back to y'all the next meeting, if we have more than 14 days' notice after it's completed to be able to do that,
It wouldn't be, you wouldn't have time.
wouldn't have time to do it.
Be 2 meetings, or I guess to clarify on my side, and I need to be clear for this, and I don't mean to be dragging this out. We're going to take a vote on how we're going to move forward. Now, we might not get to where everybody wants to be, but it has to be very clear with what we can and can't do right here, is what I'm saying. There's no use to try to do something and it not be clear from every side. But I think what I'm understanding, Mr. Pravat, I need you to clarify, you're saying that we can't enter into a land transaction tonight. You can't, you're saying we need a developer's agreement, is that correct?
I am attempting to get to where you want to go. You can enter into an agreement, you cannot enter into an agreement tonight to sell that piece of property to Mr. Wainwright for $135,000. All right, that's number one.
Okay.
You can't do that tonight. Number one, under any statutory, under the other statutory provisions that you could utilize the property, you don't have an appraisal on the property to be able to utilize that. Okay. The only provision that I see that you can address it tonight and move forward on it tonight is by utilizing this 125.045 as an economic incentive, And to do that, you have to enter a developer's agreement because he's got to have purchase terms and he's got compliance terms that these other compliance terms. So, all you're talking about tonight, in my view, is can we move forward, negotiate, finalize an agreement with Mr. Wainwright to come back for your consideration at some point in the future?
It has to be advertised.
And if we have what we think is the developer's agreement, we have to advertise it to the public 14 days ahead of time. Now, if we make changes to that developer's agreement at that 14th, the meeting after that, those things are fine. You don't have to re-advertise. But you have to comply with that to get there. I'll be honest with you, when I looked at this on the agenda, to be able to look at this, hey, I looked at it from the view that, are you guys interested in this project? If you are interested in this project, there's a lot of talking that we needed to be able to do, and for me to be able to do, to draft anything on this agenda item. I now see what the basic terms are. Still to wrap my head around them and to be able to move forward with them is going to take time to get it into these terms. I don't know how the issue of the reverter and all of that other stuff, got into all of this. It doesn't matter to me. Whether y'all want to move forward with this project as an economic incentive program to attract and retain business enterprises. That's what I needed to know.
Yes, sir. That helps me some. Oh, Mr. Wainwright, did you have any comment at this time?
No, I understand what he's saying, and I understand the time frames. I just want to know that we're moving forward. If it's a no, it's a no. If it's a yes, then I understand it could take us 60 or 90 days. I'm good with the process of us moving forward. So whatever statutes we need to meet, it needs to absolutely pass the smell test in every single matter that it has to.
So are we needing anything in the form of a motion at this time, or a consensus?
Just consensus?
More of a consensus, because what you want to do is, if you are going to do, in recognition of the statute as an economic incentive, I need that consensus that you can move forward with looking at this in that manner. Otherwise, there's no sense.
From this Florida statute, you're saying?
Correct, 125.045. Otherwise, we're the proverbial end of the wind right now, talking about all of this for this period of time. Because there's only the other ways that you have to deal with the property. I think one of the seminal cases that deals in this area, I think, was actually quoted by Mr. Land, and I'm familiar with that, with that case. And that's how you have to go about doing it and following that methodology.
So at this point in time, we need consensus from the board.
Do I need to withdraw my motion again?
Let's withdraw that motion, and we're
Okay, I
going to
withdraw my
clarify.
motion again.
You may make another one in a second, but I'm going to clarify from my side, and if Mr. Pravat, please interject.
Yes, sir.
Or any board members, if you get confused or have a comment, I need to just be clear on this. At this time, we need to make a decision as a board, whether it be consensus or in the form of a motion, that we're interested in entertaining into this, following this statute with Mr. Wainwright,
Under these terms.
under those terms that he's provided.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know that I'm gonna have, I mean, I can ask for a consensus, but I feel like it's gonna be better off if we have it in the form of a motion where we can just take a vote. I don't wanna stay here on and on. Do I have any comments? I'm gonna ask Commissioner Fleming for another motion in 1 second, but if anybody would like to speak before we do that, as far as the board for discussion, I will entertain that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll speak. I mean, I've been the devil's advocate all night. Me and Mr. Wainwright, Mr. Snowden, we have no personal beef. He bought several thousand gallons of fuel from me a few weeks ago. I hauled it out there on a phone call. The man paid me for it just like I thought he would. Didn't know his billing address or nothing. Me and Mr. Wainwright have a fine relationship. We're just on different sides of the fence tonight. I'm not there yet to give you a consensus. I'm not there to vote on it yet due to the fact that I have unknowns. You know, you guys are all standing there by, you know, on your own on what you need to be able to move forward. I don't know what the property's worth. I don't know the wages. I can't sit here and try to run a return on our investment with all these unknowns. I mean, I can't. It's impossible based on the information that we were given tonight. No one could do that. I'm not there yet. Will I ever get there? Hopefully. I'm definitely pro-business. I want to see this town grow and provide jobs for my kids to stay here. I'm not there tonight. And that's all I have.
Fair enough. Commissioner Hill,
Yeah,
comment?
I just, Mr. Chairman, if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind. And I hear what Commissioner Land's saying, but I'm not sure. I just want to make sure I'm clear of the consensus, or if it's, that's not really what you're asking for, though, Mr. Attorney. You're just asking for a consensus to move forward with putting together the agreement. Nothing to do with the land, nothing to do with what we may or may not accept or not accept. Just
It would start with this basis that he's got on this piece of paper,
okay.
and to move forward, you know, to
And
be
in-
able to get to there.
And in the meantime, I think I heard you say that, you heard something Commissioner Land said as well, that would give you time to research and make sure that what is being proposed to follow this would all be the smell test, as Mr. Don said, pass everything, the
Y'all have,
hocus pocus or whatever.
okay, y'all have to look at that statute closely. The only way I see to proceed to do this transaction without doing the competitive bidding that is required by other sections of the statute and by our surplus property, which, by the way, you haven't declared their surplus, is this particular statute. It's to be able to get there. And y'all will have to find, whenever you make this deal, that you are making this deal under this statute. You need to review this one, 125.045.
Wouldn't, Mr. Pravat, there wouldn't a consensus be same?
Sir?
Couldn't we just make a consensus, Mr. Chairman, the both of you? We all agree to,
Well, each person here is unclear about exactly what the consensus is and what they're agreeing to with what's written right here is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Here's what we're gonna do, gentlemen. Commissioner White, I don't mean to hold you out down there. Did you have anything you'd like to add at this time?
I'm confused. I'll just be straight up.
Well, that's why I wanted to just ask you if there was anything we could do for.
I just want to know if we can't put Don and Jimmy together and get a developer's agreement. And then come back and take it from there. Is that doable?
If y'all direct me to do a developer's agreement, I can do that. That can contain these terms.
And such that you may add to it.
And such that I assure you I will add to it.
That's what I see.
You know, and Commissioner,
Sir?
when he said a while ago that, you know, that's what I proposed. A good deal is what both people put together. And so I'm not opposed to the county saying, okay, I need this added to it, or I'm not opposed to it. That's what I proposed to y'all. And to my understanding, this is the only way that to go about me getting that property back was for me to provide jobs. I'm proposing to the county that I'll provide the jobs, whether y'all call it loophole, whatever y'all call it, I'm gonna build the facility there. And so if it takes negotiating for a few days, I want the community to feel like they got a good deal. I want y'all to feel like it, and I want to feel like I did when I left.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like a consensus or if we don't even need that, I just would like Don to get with the attorney and draft a developer's agreement to bring back to us that we can just.
Here's what we're gonna do. I'm understanding what you're saying. You'd withdrew your motion, so it's off the table.
It's off table.
At this time, I want you to do it in the form of a motion. If we get a second, we're gonna have a vote on it. If we don't get a second, it will fail for lack of a second, then we'll go to Plan B and continue discussing it. This is how we're gonna work it.
But,
And Mr. Chairman, just for clarification on what I believe, Mr.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I
That's fine.
wanna get somewhere.
Yeah, and my clarification and for the public's clarification on if he's gonna put that in the form of a motion, Commissioner White, just for the public's knowledge and our, that's just to get things started. I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's like when we do the solar farm, guys. They put something together, they bring it back to us, we can accept it or deny it.
I'm not saying that we're accepting, I just want to see something that the county and Mr. Wainwright has come together on and that they can bring before us that we can then discuss or approve or not approve. But I want it to be above board, and I would like somebody to look at the minutes, whether it be me or whoever, preferably the attorney, I would guess, and go back and look at all this and make sure this is completely above board. But I don't think we can do anything until we get a developer's agreement, and I think that's all we can agree on tonight. And I would like to make a motion that we give the county attorney approval to discuss with Mr. Wainwright a developer's agreement to bring back to us
For further discussion.
for further discussion.
Is that,
Did that,
And it would have to be advertised for 14 days before it comes back.
correct, and that gives the public time to come and voice their opinion as well.
Yes.
at this time, I have a motion by Commissioner White. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I want to offer a second, but would that include county administrator, Mr. White?
Yes, well, whatever
Well, you
it
don't wanna
takes.
get in- okay.
I don't need to be involved in
Okay,
this.
okay. Well,
I just want an agreement that I can look at.
I have a motion by Commissioner White, I have a second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries 4-1.
Was there a previous motion that never got a second?
It was.
I withdraw.
It was withdrawn.
Pulled it back.
It was withdrawn.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Twice, 2 times.
Yeah, actually 3 times.
3 times.
It's been confusing, but I want to have clarity, so.
Yeah, y'all have done real well at confusing everybody.
Well,
Including ourselves, Mr. Booth.
Well, that's why I tried to, at the end there, to just get something we can discuss.
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir. Mr. Harris.
Some's easier than others.
the administration office will handle the advertisement. and we'll make sure that the calendar complies, and it'll probably, very possibly, could be more than 14 days between the time that we get it advertised and the time that you actually have a hearing. We will also take whatever minutes the clerk's office puts together and make sure that all of you receive copies of those as we receive them. So we won't wait until the packet's ready. You'll get those as we receive them, any additional minutes or information that they can obtain that we can provide to you. And then at some point, it will come back. And as I understand what Mr. Pravat said and what I think you echoed, Commissioner White, the board would be entertaining a developer's agreement with or without changes at that time.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Then I know what my marching orders are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. What are your comments?
Mr. Chairman, may I read for the record that I got it right?
Mr. Musgrove, please proceed.
Commissioner White made a motion to move forward with negotiating developer's agreement using Mr. Don Wainwright's recommended terms and terms proposed by the county attorney for property on 72nd Trace under Chapter 125.045 of Florida statutes regarding economic incentive programs to be brought before the board for discussion and possible approval after 14 days public notice.
Sounds good to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Further note for the record, the minutes, that kept being discussed, I looked them up while everybody was talking, regarding the Ethics Commission findings. The December 8th, 2020 minutes state the board agreed by consensus to allow County Attorney Pravat and County Administrator Harris to continue fulfilling their duties as normal, except for real estate purchases, until the Ethics Commission findings were reviewed.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner White.
are we done with that now?
With this, yes, sir.
Can I ask to table the rest of this?
As far as the rest
The
of our
mowers
agenda?
and the tractors and the rest of this that's on the agenda tonight?
I-
Because,
Mr. Chairman, number 23 is really important.
okay.
We need to,
Well, the only reason I'm getting at the tractors is I ain't had time to look at
I'm
it.
not worried about the tractor.
That's
Okay.
fair enough.
But I am concerned with that
Let-
agreement.
Let me, we'll make note that Commissioner White has asked us to pull item 22. We'll bring it back at a later date.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Item 23, discuss with possible board action approval of changes to Waste Management, Inc. agreement. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I told you before that I had worked with Waste Management on trying to modify the numbers that they had initially given us so that we could experience some relief throughout the balance of this year and get a lower number. Well, they had agreed to that, but now I went back and asked them later to extend that to, I think it's 16 months. So we got more time at that lower number. But the reason for that, I want you to understand, was that it was important to me that we have that anniversary date fall at the beginning of a fiscal year each year. Because when we prepare a budget for solid waste, we need to do our calculations based on a date certain, and that starting date is easier to use your beginning of your fiscal year than to break in the middle of a year the way that it was going to occur otherwise. So under this modification to the agreement that you previously approved, we're getting more time at the initial reduced rate than we would otherwise.
So at this time, you just need a consensus?
I need you to vote.
Need us to vote.
I'd like to have a motion on that.
At this time, do I have a motion to approve the changes to Waste Management?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner White,
Second.
second by Commissioner Land, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, do I understand we don't have any additional agenda items? Thank you. Our final item tonight will be public comments. If anyone's wishing to speak, please make your way to the podium. Seeing none, close public comment at this time. Going to closing comments. Mr. Pravat, anything additional?
Yes, sir. Just briefly, with regard to the COVID LSE renewals, We had a meeting among approximately 50 of the county attorneys about whether or not to continue the LSE as we move forward. Again, the conversations got back to whether or not there's some problems, with funding. And it was the consensus of all of those attorneys that we needed to continue with the LSE, although the American Rescue Act doesn't have anything in it yet. There are still other requirements that would require an LSE to be in place for FEMA and for other state funding that's coming through the feds at this time. So what I am proposing as we move forward is to do like we did last week, that we will have an executive order that would be entered next Tuesday, as long as the governor's order is still in place as, for a statewide emergency. And then on the following week, like we did this week, have that executive order be ratified and then continue with the regular LSE each week until that time. If something else changes during the time, I'll certainly let the chairman know, but.
Just so I'm
what I
clear, though,
propose is the
we're doing that without a meeting, and we're just signing
Correct.
it every Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner, or Mr. Pravat. Mr. Harris, anything?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner White, closing comments.
I think we've said enough, thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Fleming,
No, sir.
Commissioner Land,
Oh,
closing comments.
I'll keep it short. Last week, Suwannee County lost a fellow previous commissioner, Mr. Ivy Fowler, passed away. Whether you liked him or not, you never had to guess where he stood. At any rate, he was a good fellow, long-term citizen here in Suwannee County and very active in our government for many years. So hated to see that happen, but
Yes, sir.
thoughts and prayers go out to his family.
Thank you. Commissioner Hale.
Yes, sir. I'll just echo what Commissioner Land said about Mr. Fowler. He was a friend of the family's, and I've watched those folks argue many times up at my dad's parts store about many things, so it was entertaining. So I would like to mention two quick things. Myself and Mr. Baker was privileged enough to go out to the Coliseum last week, I believe it was, to judge a 4-H speaking contest from I think it's 5 different schools we have here. And I will say this, guys, we're in trouble.
All right.
I did the math, though. I don't think any of them are going to be old enough to run next go-around, so you guys are safe, and I think we are too. But I'm telling you, they are really, really good. It was hard. I know I struggle with judging those kids, and just proud of them. I'm just absolutely proud of them. And I didn't get a chance to speak. Mr. Berry did, and I appreciate him getting up and saying what he said. But I do want, if this gets out to any of the parents of those students, even though they didn't win, they're all winners, because it takes a lot to get up there and do that. I'm telling you, public speaking is probably one of the number one scariest things to do in the world. So I just want to congratulate them on that and what they did. But other than that, I don't think I've got anything else. Oh, I will say this. I did hear, you guys know we had talked about the cafe, internet cafes, things like that.
Yes.
And speaking with some of our folks over in Tallahassee, I believe they're discussing coming up with a board now on the state level to monitor those guys, to have guidelines to go by, so that can help our state attorney and law enforcement in that matter. So I wanted to bring that up because I was kind of following that. And once they have those guidelines, it goes to the governor's office for him to approve or disapprove. So I just wanted to mention that. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
Yes,
One of those was my niece, was my great niece.
How about that?
A judge.
Over speaking?
Right.
Oh, okay.
I did the public speaking. I did hear it on a phone, but Commissioner White don't match my toe, but the town of Branford.
I was going to go back to
I'm going to let
it.
you mention that. I'm going to leave it alone. Let you say.
I just, with all the rest of it, I'd forgot about it, but the Brantford, was it the girls, Adam, or girls softball? Went to the state championships. I don't think we won, but it was a real great thing that we made it that far, and I'm proud of them. And I forgot to mention that. Thank you.
They almost won today. I think Trenton beat them by like a point or something. I was trying to follow it. Yeah,
Anything else, Commissioner Hale?
I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but I
No, you done passed your time.
need to, here, well,
Denied.
He didn't say much
you may
tonight.
want to deal with this. I do not remember if we had put this on a previous consent item or not, so I'm just going to ask. There's a portal where we need to put information in on Suwannee County so that we qualify for that American Recovery Act funding that we can deal with later in a budget workshop. But I'd like for the board just to authorize us to fill out the information on that online portal that's required.
Consensus is good, or
Consensus is fine with me.
do I have consensus of the board to allow the county administrator's office to,
I'm okay with it.
I'm fine.
you have consensus?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All I need.
Anything additional?
No.
I would like to express my thoughts and prayers for the Fowler family also. Also, I had heard a little earlier this afternoon about Commissioner Land's father, Terry Land, being in the hospital. Just awesome guy, good friend of many years, and I hope the best for him.
Thank you.
You and your family.
Thank you.
But our thoughts and prayers are there for him. All I need is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, say aye. Aye.